We're just getting started with our technology. We're just now reassembling our technology team. We have about 1,000 customers on our platform right now. The average customer is logging in about 3 times a month. We're on this journey of bringing advisory to all small business owners. So it's about interpreting the data, telling them what's going on, telling them a story that relates to that business owner so they can make actionable decisions. Business owners don't want P&Ls and balance sheets. They don't care to see black and white text on a page. It doesn't really do anything for them. They want to see green when it's good, red when it's bad. It's about enabling our service team and our technology to just better support small business owner growth.
May I have your attention, please?
LiveFlow.
Ooh.
So we're going to do more stuff with
LiveFlow's
LiveFlow,
back.
Nicole. We're going to continue this train of LiveFlow flow. Anita's awesome. I love her. And we're going to have Terrell come on to do things with LiveFlow.
If you have the skill of an accountant and you think like an entrepreneur, you can help every one of your clients make an extra, a minimum, several $1,000s a month, depending on the size of the business.
Hold on, but I'm trying to understand one thing. You've been providing the same type of service, and then all of a sudden you come and say, like, look, you need to buy this tool or that tool, but they already know that this is the level that you provide anyways. Wouldn't there be an argument that, well, we received it anyways, why on earth we would buy this tool now?
So the way I approach it with them is I said, hey, getting this tool is going to make us even better. You'll get more real-time access to the data because I'm giving you the best that I can with the tools that we had. And I know there were a couple clients that were asking about more real-time data feeds. And I was like, hey, based on the limitations of the process, there has to be downloaded from the system and put in the spreadsheet. It's a manual process. Now, if you want faster responses from me, we need to make an investment in a tool. If we get faster responses, I'm going to be able to help you even more than I'm doing now. And so when I explained it that way to them, they were like, yeah, hands down, let's do it. Let's go get this tool, because if this tool is going to help you give me even better information, then they're like, we're going to make even more money. And I'm like, I agree. And so when we start looking at it that way, I think that changes the whole nature of the conversation to where they aren't like counting pennies and overanalyzing, saying like, well, maybe I can afford it. It's like, no, I'm going to help you make more money so you will be able to afford this and other stuff you want to do.
You recognized there were limitations in the process, and it was your process that was being limited. And then this is an outside tool or something new that can be introduced to then unlock the entire process. And that's what automations do at our firms. That's what, whenever we introduce something new, like ChatGPT is the big unlock for the world right now. Like limitations in everybody's brain processing. Now we have an AI assistant to help us with everything and anything, right? But when you're looking at your processes, a lot of firms, that's their limitations to grow or to do anything. They hit ceilings when their processes aren't matching up, or they don't even have documented processes. LiveFlow is just a play on that word processes, workflows, processes, LiveFlow, right? So LiveFlow is being inserted in that process to then create an entirely new process that's better too. And that's their product. That's your product that you're selling the client. So I think that's beautiful. It's awesome how you did that. And for anyone that plans on attending AICPA Engage or Scaling New Heights this year, check out LiveFlow, go to their booth. The co-founders are going to be there. They will get your models automated. They had a lot of fun with this at QuickBooks Connect last year. Check them out.
May I have your attention, please?
Welcome to Accounting High. It's freshman year at a brand new school. Here, we have no rules in place as we're on a mission to set our own traditions. So hang tight and learn with us as we grow. At Accounting High, you can expect to gain knowledge in a completely different way than what you may be used to, with some fun and oftentimes colorful conversations involving some of the best teachers in the accounting industry. Whether you loved high school or you hated it, here's your chance to be a part of an unforgettable experience redone. While you're here, don't forget to follow us on Spotify or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may be listening to us right now so you don't miss out on any new episodes. And feel free to leave us a 5-star review letting us know how the school year is treating you. So sit back, relax, and open your mind because class is in session.
I repeat, may I have your attention, please?
This is another public service announcement brought to you in part
by Accounting High.
The views and events expressed here are
of the next generation of accounting and tech professionals leading this space.
The events and suggestions are not to be taken lightly. Children should not partake in the listening
of this podcast.
Anything else?
Yeah. So without further ado, introducing the star of our show,
Zachary Call, Scott Scarano, and Nicholas Pasquarosa. Oh man, I got stepped on. It's all right. That's all right. Because Zachary's going to introduce you, Nick. For anybody that didn't hear over the bell, Saved by the Bell.
We are
Zachary.
We are honored today to be with
and blessed
to have Nick Pasquarosa. Did I say that right?
It's okay. It's Pasquarosa. It's close enough.
It's pretty close.
Is it Italian?
360.
It is. It is Italian. It means pink Easter. That's what my
pink
parents told me.
Easter.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, Rosa. So Pasquarosa. What part of it is Easter? Obviously, I guess the latter.
Pasqua is Easter, right?
Pasqua. Okay, it's like Passover, right?
Yeah.
Or the root is
Rosa.
the same.
So Pasqua is Easter. Rosa is pink, I think.
Rosa's pink. Yeah, because
so.
Rose.
I didn't do so well in language classes in high school, so I have really no idea. But I took Spanish. Don't remember it though.
Yeah, well, I've been married to a Mexican for 15 years. I say this all the time on the podcast. I still don't speak Spanish. I think in numbers. I think you might be the same way. We will learn.
Nick is the founder of Bookkeeper 360. He's also
the famous Bookkeeper 360. If you're in the Xero world, you know Bookkeeper 360.
His company, Bookkeeper 360, is a Forbes 1000 company, right? And he is 20 under 40 of accounting influencers. And that was who puts that out? Is that CPA Practice?
CPA Practice Advisor.
Yep.
You know, we have 2 of the 20 on this episode today.
You are as well,
right?
Scott, aren't you?
You're on there, Scott?
I am. Yeah.
Congrats,
this is my first little list. Yeah.
Congrats
to you, Nick. This is awesome. So the way I want to structure this episode, I mean, usually this just tends to happen naturally, but I'm going to lay it out here. We're going to go past, present, future with you and Bookkeeper 360, right? Mm-hmm. I think you guys are doing some amazing things. I think you always have been. You always been kind of setting the pace or setting the tone for a modern cloud accounting firm in everything you do. I don't need to talk as close to the mic. I just learned this yesterday, and so my levels have been getting cut off, but I digress. I just want to say, I'm honored to have you on. I've been excited about this episode for a while. I think it's going to be dope. I'm building it up too much, so I've already got 10 minutes down, 12 minutes down just through the intro, so this better be fucking good, or I've just wasted everybody's time. So, Nick, start with high school, I guess. You could start earlier than that, but I don't think we need to go that far back. I mean, this is Accounting High, so it's appropriate.
Makes sense. So, high school. So, I grew up in Long Island, New York. I took college accounting in high school. That was probably my first interaction with accounting. And even dating back in high school, I was that kid in the classroom that kind of did his own thing, his own way. I'll never forget trying to explain to my teachers at the time that I want to take notes using a Palm Pilot, which those things don't exist anymore. And I started to take all my notes on Palm Pilot, on a Palm Pilot. I was always obsessed with technology from a very early age, just discovering it, understanding how it interacts with different things and whatnot. And I eventually learned I could turn off the TVs in high school as well. So any teachers that watch this episode by some way of imagine, I used to turn off the TV. I was that kid turning on and off the TV during the presentations.
You were that kid. Somebody had it with their watch. You probably had it with your Palm Pilot or some form or another.
Yeah. It was the best when we had substitute teachers because I'd really just piss them off. They'd have no idea what's going on. So
were you quiet? Were you quiet and mischievous? Because
I wouldn't say I was quiet. No, I definitely was outspoken. I didn't get into trouble. It wasn't one of those kids in detention, left and right. But I definitely said what was on my mind. I just did things how I thought they should be done from a very early age. But I was introduced to accounting back in high school, and at the time, my mom was running a business, a textiles company, and she was using a software called Peachtree, and she didn't know squat about software and accounting and invoices and that was kind of my first early, I guess my mom was my first client. So I started, listed a page on like Craigslist at the time. I got like a
How
QuickBooks.
old were you when your mom was doing this?
Back in
Or
high
what
school,
year did you graduate high school?
2010.
2010?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just turned 30 in July, this past July. So like I started working on this software at the time I knew nothing about. And then I learned something about QuickBooks and I became a pro advisor because I took their certification online. And then I started like marketing myself to small businesses in the area through Craigslist, where I found one of my first clients. And it's funny because they weren't even having like a accounting problem. They're having a problem printing checks. So it's like they called me because they just didn't know how to use a printer and check stock. And it's like, that's a technology problem. That's not like a accounting problem, right? And kind of snowballed from there. I never imagined or dreamed Bookkeeper 360 would turn into what it has become. There was no business plan back then. It was just me trying to earn the hustle to pay for the things I liked. And, I always liked nice things. I had to figure out a way to afford them some way. So
we all like nice things. Some people just admit it and some people just can't afford it and don't admit it.
So I guess, tell me, so did this business start from your mom, like from helping your mom? And did you call it Bookkeeper 360 out the gate? Like, give me a time frame of college too, like how it eventually started.
yeah, so I incorporated my S Corp back in like, I guess 2010-ish.
Okay.
So it was called Pask Management Corporation, which is just my last name abbreviated. My nickname is Pask, so that's what all my friends.
Easter management.
Yeah, Easter Management, exactly. We're counting eggs, I guess. So it started with just Pask Management Corporation, then eventually rebranded to Bookkeeper 360 later on throughout college. So my college experience was like, I didn't have a college life actually. So by the time I was in college, I already had a few dozen customers. I actually had a physical office at like the age of 18. My parents had no idea what the hell I was doing in this office because I eventually moved out of my parents' basement because I had like a really big room in my parents' basement. I had like this huge U-shaped desk that like took up almost like 75% of my bedroom. They thought it was like outrageous, but I'm like, I need somewhere to work. I had all these monitors and going all over the place. So so I took that out and I moved it into a physical office while like in college. So I didn't like really so I went to St. John's University, which is in Jamaica, Queens. I have a master's in taxation. I could sit for the CPA, but I'm not practicing, like accountant anymore. I just, run the operations of the business. And throughout college, it's like I went in, got my on and got out. And I eventually actually converted to just doing online classes because the growth of Bookkeeper 360 started to really take off. And it was, just took up a lot of my time. I never did like internships or Big Four type of stuff and kind of found the niche in, small business accounting. And I guess the rest is history. Right?
On those early days, what primarily was fueling your growth? Were you doing advertising or was it all word of mouth? Like how were you growing?
So locally, before Bookkeeper 360 started accepting like customers all across the country, it was all local, which was mostly word of mouth. It was one small business owner would refer it to a friend that owned a small business. I think at the time they were like, oh, this guy, Nick, he's such a young kid. He's trying to make all these hustling, like give him a chance. Like that's how I got introduced. But then I really started to provide value and they're like, wow, this is great. My wife or whoever doesn't have to do it. And you're going to give me like accurate, like up-to-date books and whatnot. And it just started with just bookkeeping, like bill pay. I didn't do tax and payroll. And I later started doing taxes and I started majoring in tax. But I just started with just basic bookkeeping. And I'll never forget this moment. So I was sitting in my conference room and an entrepreneur, like a serial entrepreneur from Brooklyn, called me and he's like, I found you online and you're about 45 minutes away from me. And I don't ever want to see you because I don't have a physical place to have you and meet. And I don't really feel like getting coffee with you either. He's like, I'm just going to give you my Chase bank account information. I'm going to email you my login and password. And, he said, just get my bookkeeping done and get back to me by like the 15th of the month. I said, wow, this is pretty outrageous. You don't know me from a hole in the wall. You just found me, this college kid. You're giving me your bank account information. I think his personal account was also linked up to it at the time. That's how like crazy of a concept this was. And when that happened, I'm like, holy, if I can do this from at the time Hicksville to Brooklyn, which is about 45 minutes away, I can do this from New York to California. And that's what really resonated with me, and like the light bulb exploded. So along with then cloud technology like Xero and QuickBooks Online, those types of softwares becoming more like dominant in the market and being enabling, that kind of then shifted our business model from just a local market to a national brand now.
So this is around 2012, like these early days, and this is the year that always comes back up on this podcast. Anybody that's Xero adjacent or Xero, origin stories, 2012 was the year. You were one of the first too, like to find Xero. Tell us about that, like finding Xero.
Yeah. So it's funny because I found Xero. So I knew that QuickBooks Online for the longest time because I was a pro advisor back in the early days. And QuickBooks Online certainly was not and is not what it is today. They've made vast changes to, and they've spent a lot of money in their product with the online version. But we were using QuickBooks Online with a customer, and then we were figuring out a way to better manage bills. So we were using a file management system at the time that had like a unpaid folder, a approved folder, and the paid folder. And my client would log into like a remote server and like drag the bills from one folder to the other when they were approving them. It was a very like clunky way to do bill pay, but it was a way that we did it remotely. Because prior to being like virtual, I would have to go pick up bills and like go scan them in. So the client would just scan them in, I'd process them, they would approve them, and I'd pay them through like Chase or wherever. And one of our clients said like, there has to be a better way to pay bills. And so we came across Bill.com, which has been, around as one of the top ecosystem apps for like QuickBooks Online and Xero for quite a long time now. And then from learning about Bill.com, I learned something called Xero. And that was one of the accounting integrations early on. So that's how I actually found out about Xero. And then when I tried it out for the first time, I'm like, wow, this is such a smooth experience compared to what QuickBooks Online was back then. So that's kind of what started us down this path of just being a Xero-centric shop. And we were pretty much 99% Xero only up until like 2017 or so, where then we expanded to start offering QuickBooks Online and some other general ledger softwares.
Same story as most. QuickBooks sucked. We wanted a cloud platform, and that's how we all ended up inside the Xero bubble. Your branding, very similar to Salesforce and Xero. Care to comment on that? What came first, the 360 or the Salesforce logo?
Kind of both of them at the same time. So our original logo, which is now the 360, used to be a circle. It was 360 as a circle, right? And it was like a pie chart of that circle. And the four quadrants of that circle was bookkeeping, payroll, bill pay, and I think tax. Those are like the four primary services we initially offered. Then as everything started to get entered into the cloud, we wanted to say, like, we were looking for like a rebranding, even though it was still very early on, but we weren't like in love with the circle. So we transformed the circle to a cloud. And it just so happens that a few of our customers were already using Salesforce, and Mark Benioff is one of my mentors. I really inspired his whole journey, how he created Salesforce, the disruption with the Microsoft products and everything he used to do. So we kind of made it into a cloud. It kind of just all molded together. It's just like a perfect storm of timing. So,
and I mean that in the best way, because I know you use both of those products. You use Salesforce, you use Xero. You're still using Salesforce too, right?
It's funny. So it's like evolution eats itself. So 10 years later, we're actually on the process of sunsetting Salesforce, and we'll be done with that by February of next year.
Well, let me back up then. Before you got off of it, it's like you eat where you eat, or eat where you. I don't even know what the phrase is, but I think you know what I'm referring to. It's like, you're representing the products that you use, and that becomes part of your brand story too. And that's basically kind of, like in a lot of ways, what I've always done is you got to represent the brands that you care about. I remember early days, you guys were also using Macs at your firm. You had like a blog post on it and stuff. And I was at the same time also using Mac Minis. Everybody had a Mac Mini. That was like the thing. It was so easy, but not too many people were doing that. Like, you represent and Xero too, like a lot of the products that you use become part of your brand and in a lot of ways. And I guess at what point did you start seeing a lot of these brands and tech vendors as partners? Like, what changed your mind on this? Because a lot of us call our brands partners now. And I don't know, everybody has a different story on when they started to see a tool as a partner.
Sure. So we've used Apple from day one. I was like a big Apple fanboy. in my early, like in high school to college. So it only made sense we used Apple products. We used to, so when we had a physical office, which we later got rid of, we would do a lot of like streaming. So Apple TVs were just starting to come around. It would be very easy to like stream your screen to another TV for like people to help each other. And it was just simple. Like Windows always had so many issues with viruses and all this crap and that no one ever wants to deal with. And being that everything was moving towards the cloud and being web apps, we had really less and less dependency on desktop software. Because back then, nothing was really made for Mac. Although there was a QuickBooks desktop version for Mac, which was really dog, but nonetheless, it seemed like natural. And, that actually was good and it was bad because as we were hiring people, still Mac wasn't really used in like the business world. So we had to overcome some of those learning obstacles. And we still face that today. Like some of the accountants that we bring on board, they're like, what do you mean I don't get a Windows machine? We're like, no, you don't. You get a Mac.
Yeah. And, but that's also like a power move too, in some ways. Anytime I got somebody to eventually convert, they always thanked us later. They always said, "Oh, I love using this. I'm sorry that I put up a fight. I don't really need a PC." And then anytime we did have somebody on a PC, they ended up with a virus. Like we had 2 people on PCs one time at the office. The office gets hit with ransomware, and those were the only 2 computers that were impacted. All the Macs are fine. Like what does that tell us about the security and everything? And I don't know. I mean, it's all the rumors. Anything anybody says about Apple is always just true. It always comes to pass. So
I think what it says more than anything too, though, Nick, is that it kind of goes back to what you said earlier in your intro. Is like you've always been interested in doing your own thing and doing it your own way. Like who cares if the world of bookkeeping and accounting use Windows PC? Like you're just going to use a Mac and you're going to make it work and you're going to work your own way and you're going to do your own thing, pave your own path for your future. And I think that's the way Nick works.
Who cares if everybody's using QuickBooks? It sucks at the time. We're going to use Xero and we're going to lean in. That's part of the history, right? That's part of how you got to where you were. And I'm sure that it's tough at times to be at the front end of a change or to be doing something that differently. But if you've got the vision, so I guess speak a little bit more on, well, I do want to hear like of what impression these tech partners made too. Like just back to like seeing people as partners. I think we all see Apple as partners because we're all in the Kool-Aid. Zachary's using Apple. We all do. I know my Apple friends, but looking at the software that we use, I got to say, like, it was Xero that changed my mind on all of it, that changed my life in a lot of ways. I don't need to go on what they did to me. I want to hear how it impacted you. Was it Bill.com? Was it Xero? Was it somebody else?
It was probably Xero most of all, the partners, because they cared about Bookkeeper 360 and me as like a real valued partnership with them. They actually set probably the groundwork of how I look at our partners today with Bookkeeper 360, the way that we want to interact with our customers. The amount of like love and care that they saw in my early years to help me make sure Bookkeeper 360 was successful was amazing. And coming from like being a QuickBooks Pro advisor, well, they've done everything to destroy the definition of partners, in my opinion, over the last like 3-4 years.
They still do a pretty good job of it too.
I get a new account representative every 30 days. I don't know what's going on over there, but nonetheless, like they never were even able to help out like with the simplest things. Like, so when we were first, like Xero had great software, but the people behind Xero and the partnerships that like the outreach was really just amazing. They did it differently. They built a community over like 5 years that was like so much more powerful than what I think Intuit did with their accountants communities in the early years.
So people say this about Apple a lot too, or it's true about Apple. It's the software and the hardware work together with Apple, and Apple creates an experience that's unmatched like anything else because everything is all connected. I think that's basically what you said about Xero is the software and the people. That's the hardware. In this case, we're going to talk about people as being hardware. That's it. Like they created a culture and it's impacted everybody. In Zachary's intro, it's the community. It's the relationships that we've all built through Xero, and other apps have modeled off of Xero in our space. I think that could be the ground zero for a lot of people. If they weren't inspired by Xero, they're not admitting it. But I think that's, in a lot of ways, it changed the course for Intuit too, for QuickBooks.
I even went as far as at one point. So a lot of our business clients, when they were setting up, they're like, because it was all new to them. They're like, okay, when the small business owner would come to us, they'd say like, what do I need to get? We're like, all right, we recommend a Mac or using an iPad, and we recommend this and that. And we actually went as far as actually engraving iPads with like our logo behind them. And when the customer opened up the iPad, they would have Xero pre-installed and some of the other apps that we were using. So we've always been, a big focus of ours has always been like aligning the full package for the business owner. So they don't have to think about anything. Like, here it is. And business owners don't want to have to make decisions around like what accounting infrastructure they should use. They want to focus on their passion, grow their sales, like build their product, not like focus how the debits and credits get reconciled. That's the last thing they typically want to focus on.
So
continuing.
How many employees are you up to now at Bookkeeper 360?
All right. Well, this is the question I was going to ask.
We're just at 70 employees now.
All right. So my question was going to be a little bit rounder than that, where we want to frame the conversation too, as we're continuing to talk about the past. Right now, give me the numbers that you care to share. Top line, we already went over headcount, profitability or margins for the company, and your time. How much is spent outside of the office doing your thing? Like how do you feel, how free do you feel? So what's the top line of the firm? What's the 70 is the headcount, obviously. Margins, how much take home, or what are the percentages? And then how do you feel about your free time?
So we're just about a little bit over 10 million at this point for next year. As far as profitability, we're in a hyper growth model right now. So we're reinvesting every penny of profit into the business. We could be profitable tomorrow if we wish, but it's not about being profitable today. It's about, building something for the future. And we're developing our own software tech. Unlike some of our competitors, we haven't raised $100 million. We've raised a few million, which is still a lot of money, but we're still growing in a fashion that we think is comprehensive to like our business goals. And we want to make sure that we don't go, it's not like a billion or bust type of model for us. This is a long strategy game for us. As far as my use of time, you had a question?
Yeah, that's it. Is how your use of time. That's the question.
Yes.
How do you feel about it?
So my use of time nowadays is really focusing with our technology team. So we're working on building our own software development team internally. We just got a director of engineering on board, and it's around our culture and the product vision. I don't deal with client services anymore. I have a team in place that handles that side of the business. So it's really around the branding, the marketing, big partnerships, that sort of stuff.
I think that brings up a good point, like that transition that you've gone from like being in the business and managing, many aspects of it to just kind of working on the technology piece and the high level and compensation plans and, other sorts of management stuff. But you probably had lots of these little transitions going through Bookkeeper 360 from 10 years ago to today. What is the first transition? When did you get out of bookkeeping? Like you being the one who was running the books and transitioned into the review management process. And then what was the next step after that? And what challenges did you face on those journeys?
It's a great question. So I would say I've been out of actual practice probably for about four years now. Because my current focus is more on the technology and the vision of the product, our app that we're developing. So I would have not had that insights of what to build if I'd never lived the problem. And I think that's core for anyone that's trying to solve any problem. You always have to live the problem so you understand the problem at hand, the issues, all the components, all the moving parts to it. So like there's not a single role in this company that I have never done myself. I sold clients, I've done bookkeeping, I've paid bills, I've done payroll, I've done taxes, I've done advisory. So I understand a lot of different aspects of it. And that's actually helped us be very, very streamlined, like with what we're developing. So our customers and our team, our employees dictate our product development. Like we didn't like just say one day, like, hey, let's go develop some type of app to solve this business problem that we may or may not know even exists. It was this constant repetition of hearing the same things over and over that really gave us the inspiration to develop a software for it, because we felt there was nothing else that did it did it the way that we need it to be done. It's kind of like what Apple has always done, like with software and hardware. And we kind of have the same mindset that we need our people and software to kind of be, combined to own both aspects of that to deliver like a really good experience.
I love that. So, and then along the same vein of this question, at what point did you start building a management team? Because most bookkeeping firms, most accounting firms, CPA firms, they are slow to make that transition. The owners are doing a lot of the work, and they basically continue to always do a lot of the work. They don't necessarily have anybody in sales. They don't necessarily have anybody in marketing. They don't have like, you're running this like a company. You've always run this like you're the CEO. I see that. So at what point and you have a board of directors too. I want to talk about that. You guys have taken on funding. So at what point did you see this as something bigger than just a bookkeeping firm and more of a business?
I saw that very early on. That's why the name went from Pask Management Corporation, which is my last name, to Bookkeeper 360, because it wasn't about me. And maybe I'll be the CEO for the next 10 years, but there may be something else that called my attention. This is about a company built to like last. This is not just like Nick wants to create a job for himself, which I think a lot of firm owners do. And that gets them into trouble because then they have a difficult aspect about bringing in managers, delegating that down, their last names on the door type of thing. Like the last thing we ever wanted to be was a accounting firm that looked like that and operated like that.
Differently again.
Yeah, it's just not a model that I think works. So we made steps in that trajectory like from day one, and that's always been my mindset. I would say even like last year, this current year has been a really transformational year for us. We've brought in a lot of senior management into the organization. We created a lot of new divisions. We've launched new divisions. So we're constantly looking for a great management talent to help layer in the organization.
So the CPA wasn't really something that you even thought you needed. Even from the earliest of ages, you could have got your CPA. You didn't. I've talked about this a lot. We've had discussions on this podcast a lot about the relevancy of the CPA. We're not going to talk about that today. I just wanted to bring that up. And the fact that you saw this model as not right, or you saw something wrong with it. Was there something specific that you remember seeing, or something that triggered like, I want to do it differently than this? Or is this just part of that whole vein of everybody's doing it one way, I need to do it differently?
I think when you're a CPA firm, there's too much regulatory that you just don't want to have to deal with. Typically, CPAs can't always recommend different softwares. They can get compensated for different arrangements through like affiliated or business type relationships. And I think there's also standards that if you produce any type of internal finance report, it has to have certain reviews and all that. So like, again, we were building something that was really meant just for the small business owner to run a better business. And I never thought that you need to have a CPA license to deliver that. That's why we never really explored that. Granted, we have half a dozen or so plus CPAs that work for Bookkeeper 360, but to be classified as a CPA firm, that just seemed like an injustice for the direction that we want to go.
Yeah.
The red tape and all that.
I mean, I had a client call me today and say, "Hey, can you get me a P&L to give to the bank?" And I was like, "No, I can't. Not without doing a compilation or a review or financial prep, and charging you $500 at a minimum to do it, That's why we give them access to Xero and we let them print their own. But still, I'd love to just provide it, which is something Bookkeeper 360 can do. And I can't because we're a CPA firm.
Also, CPA firm sounds like, not to talk down on a CPA firm, it sounds too sophisticated, sounds too complex. Like, I got to go talk to my CPA. There should be an easier way that small business owners get access to the information to make business decisions. And it just sounds really expensive in most cases. You just said it costs $500 for you to just write that email. We don't want to prohibit our clients from interacting to get answers to problems to help them run a smoother business and feel like every single minute they call us, they're going to get hit with a bill. That's just something we don't want to create that relationship with small businesses, because part of something that's always been like, part of my just DNA is like helping people. And we want, like, my goal is to help more small businesses, and we don't want to make an environment where that they feel like they're going to get billed for every hour that they call it.
So early stages, you saw this as, I mean, you had a vision for it, and 10 years later, you're executing that. At what point did you talk to me about a board of directors? Because that's also something that you see that this is common in businesses, companies, not in accounting firms. So just talk about the need for that, or what it was, because I think we all need advice, and we all need somebody to guide us. You know, you were younger, still are very young, you know, and successful to be doing this. But I think that comes with the absence of ego, the absence of this isn't about me. I don't want my name on there. I need help. I need people that know what they're doing. So tell me, like, just, I guess, talk to us about the story of finding a board of directors and who they are and what that means to the company.
Sure. So anyone out there that has ever raised capital or is interested in raising capital, number one rule is don't just accept like money, because typically you can attract the wrong type of investors. They will put constraints on the business, unrealistic expectations. Like it's a common fact that VCs will just push and push and push until it's $1 billion or bust type of situation. So it's all about alignment and building trust. And as long as you have alignment, trust, and constant communication, I mean, it just helps the business stay like on track. So we have a very small board of directors, although we have a pretty large investor group. I let everyone have a say. Everyone gets access to the same amount of information because it's all about transparency. And when I was looking, you know, so I've had some investors that were awful investors, and we've had to get them exited just because they weren't thinking about Bookkeeper 360 the same way I was. And I made some of those early mistakes early on, bringing on the wrong types of investors. We've all been there, so like you learn as you go. You learn as you live.
That's what Dave Barrett said on his episode at Expensify. That's, you know, you have to learn as you go. You know, we're always in a continually learning process. We never know everything. We never, you know, that's always where people get in their own way too, is they feel like they finally learned it, whatever it is, and there is no iterations or evolutions. And that's how we get to eventually from the past, present, future, right? Like, you've got to learn from every mistake that you've made to get to where you're at now, and know that whatever got you here isn't going to be what gets you there too. And there's a lot that we don't know.
You don't make mistakes. You have lessons, and you learn from those lessons. That's it. There's no such thing as mistakes in business, in my opinion. Unless he puts you out of business, then that's a bit of a mistake. But you typically learn, and you have learning lessons. That's the way I always have looked at it.
For sure, yeah. And we all stumble and, you know, bump our heads along the way, bump our knees, stub our toes. Tell us about something that you did screw up early, like something that a way that you bumped your head that you thought was irrecoverable, or that you weren't going to be able to move on. Did you ever have any of those moments?
This is kind of a personal thing, but it was almost catastrophic to the business. So we were in an office building, which I'd love to tell you more about the office adventures that we had as we grew up. But we had a pretty small office, and at the time business was like really like booming, and we ran out of space. We moved upstairs in our office building, 4 floors, all filled with accountants who they all thought we were crazy because we had Macs and just did things completely wacky. But right as we signed the lease, I pretty much elected to get triple jaw surgery, and had a complication. And I already knew going into it I was gonna be wired shut for almost like 5 months. And then I had like a bone issue and all this crap. And like, I was out of the office for a good 6 months. I was in a hyperbaric chamber when we just signed like $1 million lease. So it was like one of those like, oh, what next type of situations. But I'm so blessed to have such an amazing team that like really like pulled through and got us through that time. That was a really dark time, really depressing time for me as well.
Was it elective surgery? Did you need it?
Yeah. So I didn't have to get it at that point in time, but it would have gotten to the point that it was like really bad, like with sleep apnea and, you know, other things, gum disease. So I said, like, let me just bite the bullet and just get it all done. And I'll never forget this. So my surgeon at the time's like, it's a 3-process surgery. It's like, we're going to expand your jaw, like open it. We're going to move your front jaw up, or we're going to move your bottom jaw back. And I said to them, like, okay, let's just do it in one surgery, because I don't really have time to come back here and do this all over again. So I'm like, just do it all in one big wrap up. And we had a little bit of a complication, not because the surgeon's fault. I think just because of my health or whatever. But persevered through it and kind of made it through that. That was a really dark time for the company.
That could be where your ego got in the way too, thinking you could power through something like that. We're going to do a 3-part surgery. No, just, you know, throw it all together, keep me longer. I don't know, whatever you need. And then kind of put yourself through something like that. I can relate. I take some big swings with things, and we all think that we're a little bit stronger than we really are sometimes.
Nick, how many? I know we talked about this a little bit when I came out to New York, but I know you've got at least one or two employees who've been with you for a really long time, who've grown with you.
Yeah. So a handful of my first few employees were some of my childhood friends and people I met throughout high school. And at the time, they even know what the company did. I'm like, I just need people to help me with these random things that I started I'm like, there's so much I can't do this anymore. So we've had a lot of great team members over the years. We've also, it's kind of the sad thing, but the company's also grown at such a speed that you tend to the company grows faster than someone's professional development has grown. So the team that is here now and some of the longest standing employees of the company, they're like the backbone of the company. They've been so instrumental to our growth. But, and you also see people that don't grow with the company. So it's kind of bittersweet, in some areas. But it's kind of just who wants to help me do this thing? And got some people raise their hands and they came on board in the early days.
It's bittersweet because it's hard to identify that in the moment. Was there any point, the most important thing, you got good to great behind you, Jim Collins. And he talks about getting the right people in the right seats. And that's a really hard thing to do when you're first starting out in business, because in a lot of ways, at least for me, I didn't even know who I was or what I was good at. How the hell am I supposed to know how other people would be best suited? They think they like something and they're terrible at it, but you can't tell them that because that's what they want to be doing, right? How do you figure that out early days too? Was it?
You kind of just learn on the job type of thing. I think one thing that a small business and Bookkeeper 360 had these constraints is that we graduated from high school friends to Craigslist to Indeed, and now we even use headhunters when we need specific jobs filled. So there's always budget constraints. So you have to figure out the way to maximize your team with what you have. And for any small business owner, you have to be nimble. You have to work with them. You have to mentor them, and hopefully they see the opportunity and they want to have self-investment. If someone doesn't want to invest in themselves, it's very difficult to get them to start thinking that way. There's only so much you can do before you have to kind of just cut the investment on some people. But you have to just keep mentoring, keep helping people, I guess.
Yeah, mentoring, coaching. Do you have any mentors or coaches or people that helped you along the way too?
None that I knew personally. I feel like one of my biggest mentors, and this may sound like a cliche or a little bit wacky, is myself. Whenever I got to a certain point in my life, I always took that line, I pushed it off even more. So whether it was a new car I wanted to buy, a house, a fancy watch, or whatever it was, I've always just kept them pushing the bar and pushing the bar. Because once I hit something, I'm like, all right, what's next? What's next? I have an addiction to just keep on doing something. I have to be active with doing something. But two of my
That'll catch up to you at some point.
Oh,
I'm warning you now. It will catch up to you.
I'm feeling it already. I'm feeling it totally.
Yeah,
I get it.
It's exhaustive. Let me tell you, because once you finally do keep hitting those, yeah. But continue.
Two mentors I met one of them, Mark Benioff, I met at one of his conferences, but I was really amazed the way that he transformed the CRM and cloud business and the disruption type things he did in his early days. So I was always encouraged by his boldness and just do whatever you think is right, as long as it doesn't get you into massive amounts of trouble, just keep doing it type of thing. And then Steve Jobs everyone would probably say that, but what was so inspiring about him is people don't know what they need until you show them what they need. And kind of this whole journey of cloud accounting, inventing what we've done, and now inventing even our technology. It's that I always reflect back to that, because small business owners think they need their bookkeeping done. No one really needs bookkeeping to get done. They need information to make business decisions. That's what they need. So those are probably two of my most people that I've reflected on, but from a distance, because I don't really know them personally.
Well, you're redefining the relationship between an accountant and a business owner in the early stages. And we talk about this all the time on the podcast, moving the industry forward and changing people's mindsets around ways that we've been trained to believe and trained to think in school. And anybody that's doing it is telling you one thing, you're doing something different. You got to have that reality distortion field that Jobs had. He was able to bend reality to his will by sheer force of will in a lot of cases. And that created a toxic relationship with a lot of people surrounding him. So I'm going to lead to that. Do you fight that? Do you have sometimes a toxic relationship because you know the way and it's hard to articulate that? Dave Barrett talked about it in his episode. I can relate to it in a lot of ways because sometimes I can't get what's in my head out and I could see it very clearly. And I got stupid people. That's what I say. It's not stupid people. There's that imagination gap, the gap of I see something one way and nobody else around me can. And I would get too frustrated and it would just spiral. And I think this is what it would happen with Jobs, but in a way, he was always able to push through it. He was always able to at least articulate it to the right person. Do you find you ever run into that?
In the early days I did, and in the early days I cared a lot more what people think or say or whatever they felt. But as you start seeing that you're succeeding at what you're doing, you're getting traction, you're being, acknowledged for your impact, and what the hell does it matter what someone else thinks? And like kind of that energy of like saying, well, I'm doing it my way, and as long as like I think I'm winning, I'm doing well, then why does it matter? Like just like stay in your lane type of thing. And I've always like reflect that. So that's reset my energy. So at this point, like we don't really look at anyone and say, hey, we have to do it because they're doing it that way. We just do our things our own way. And if it works, it works. And we're accountable for our results kind of thing.
And sometimes you do see people doing things a great way. And it's like, ooh, I'm going to take that idea. I mean, this is what Jobs did all the time. He found something and did it better, right? Like your journey, if I could bring us to where there's a curve that I talk about a lot, a Dunning-Kruger curve. I forgot what it's called. You're at the beginning of a lot of these. It's like you're at the peak of Mount Stupid. Think you know everything. I think that's when you start butting your head and you do actually care about what people think at that stage, and you really know nothing. Like it's, all of us go into some with the utmost of confidence to push through that whole imposter's phase. Then we end up in the valley of despair where we feel like we know nothing. And did you ever get to that valley of despair? I feel like you're now at the plateau of purpose or pleasantness. I don't know what I'm calling this plateau. I've made up these names as I go along. But after the valley of despair, that's when you start to really know that you know, and you really start to learn. Do you remember being ever getting to there where you just feel like this is, I don't know if I'm going to keep, well, I guess I already asked you that question, but do you ever remember like that point?
No, I can't say I do. I feel like from 2016 to 2018 was a really like, those are some of the golden years of Bookkeeper 360 where we were being recognized and by like Inc. 5000 and some of these really like public type matters. So that's like, that gave us like a lot of accreditation. So like from 2012 to 2016 or so, whatever it was, that's kind of like the grinding and like how we're seeing results. Like people are liking what we're doing. The accountants on our office floor are like, think we're out of our minds. You'd walk into our office, we'd look like a trading floor. I had CPAs walking in, being, is this a stock trading floor? We'd have TVs up. There'd be no cubicles, Mac Minis, dual monitors. We have this crazy office bar that everyone like congregated around. And it was just like,
you had candy bars or candy drawers and like
candy drawers. We used to have like a liquor wheel and carousel. You can like, grab a shot, espresso bars. We've had helicopters, bean bags, like you name it, any tech company, like, startup kit, we've had all that junk and but it's like it always kind of just worked.
I used to say drawers too because I'm from New York, and when I changed it to drawers because everywhere else I go nobody says drawers except for up in that area of New York, like at least for me. You say it too, I noticed. Candy drawers.
And so now the transition has occurred in your business where all of your employees are now remote. You don't have that office, right? How do you try to instill the Bookkeeper 360 culture and what you guys have built and what you've stood for into a group of remote workers?
It's not easy, and as much technology that we think or we have or whatever it is, there's no exact answer to that question. So it's a combination of a lot of things that we've started doing since going remote. So in March of 2020, right when the pandemic hit, I said to everyone, like, grab your laptop. We're going to go remote for a few weeks. We'll probably see everyone in a few weeks. At the time, 99% of the company was in New York. Everyone went to a physical office each and every day, including myself, the leadership team, managers. And, obviously we never went back because the pandemic took much longer than we expected. And then we also started hiring because we were like really busy. We needed help. We started hiring some people out a little bit more further from the office, and then eventually out of the state. And then people like really far from like Texas and California while we're in New York. And we said to ourselves, like, we're not going to fire these people. These are great people. We want them on our team. So it was a pivotal moment. Like in June of 2021, we made the final decision, like, we're not having a physical office. And that's something I was so gung-ho on, having a physical office for the first like 7-8 years of existence, because I felt like it was not possible to grow at the speed that we were growing, keep our culture connected, and keep everyone on the same page. So we turned 10 this past October. So we decided to fly every team member that was able to make the trip to New York. So we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. We made it, there was really 3 components of the trip. It was to bring our team together because there's a lot of managers and people on the team that have never worked together, which was amazing because it was so astonishing how well these people integrated and connected immediately. They felt like they were working together side by side for 5 years. It was amazing to see the connectivity that was kind of born. We also brought people to get aligned for our business objectives for 2023. And then we had some educators come in and do some coaching. So like our 10-year event was like the first time we brought the team together. So that is kind of a way that we've kept our culture together, and we plan on hopefully doing it in the future years. But we do things like town halls. So every Friday, one Friday a month, we typically get up there, this presentation. We do live Q&A. We have anonymous questions that get filtered in, and we try to just keep everything, everyone in the loop, because people can feel like such distance when they're like working from home and all that. So we do also things like coffee talk. So like when new team members come on board, we like encourage them, hey, take 15-20 minutes like as a huddle, talk about anything accounting and Bookkeeper 360. Talk about your pets, talk about your family, talk about your favorite sports team, anything but accounting. So we've had to transform the way that we do activities to stimulate our culture. In the physical office, it was so much easier to do that. But you have to adapt. So
adaptability. Yeah. Well, I feel like your reality distortion field is strong enough. That's why you never hit that valley of despair, because you're able to pivot pretty quickly, and you have to be able to be agile, nimble, and pivot if you're going to be the head of a growing company. Still very relatively young. I mean, I feel like a lot of the best entrepreneurs, they say they're just getting started. And so we got to the present. Now let's talk about the future a little bit. Where do you feel like you're just getting started?
So we're just getting started with our technology. So we're just now reassembling our technology team. We have about 1,000 customers on our platform right now. The average customer is logging in about 3 times a month, which is amazing considering we've done really nothing yet to really encourage them to log in with automated alerts and all this. And we're on this journey of bringing advisory to all small business owners. So it's about interpreting the data, telling them what's going on, telling them a story that relates to that business owner so they can make actionable decisions. Business owners don't want P&Ls and balance sheets. They don't care to see, black and white text on a page. It doesn't really do anything for them. They want to see green when it's good, red when it's bad. So, and all small business owners could benefit from a CFO advisor, but they all can't afford a CFO advisor. So it's about enabling our service team and our technology to just better support small business owner growth. We're really passionate about small business owner success here. And we spend little to nothing in marketing. And, we've gotten a lot of referrals, and our customers just love what we're doing, in all honesty. Our Google reviews, like you go on them, they just speak for themselves. They're paragraphs because we're really hitting it home. We're really helping small businesses. So just going deeper to help small businesses.
Dope marketing. You guys have done marketing very similar to my instinct, how I've done it early days. Don't really spend money on it, but word of mouth can be so much more powerful with the right reviews and also putting your sign up in the right places. You guys did this. There's a handful of others early days where we saw a big opportunity in the Xero directory, putting our sign up in different places. We knew how the algorithm worked. We showed up in all the different cities. So when people were looking for Xero accountants, we were one of the only people that showed up in some cities. You, me, and a handful of others. And that was pretty much it. And that's the only option people had when they didn't want to use QuickBooks. And there's a lot of businesses that would find us, probably find you through that directory because their accountant won't use Xero. They don't even want to mess with it, right? I'm sure you got that a lot. We would get it all the time. Not as much anymore. We get leads from Gusto too. But tell me about just the decision to do some of those things, or when did that click for you? Like, we can do this, and we don't even have to spend much money at all, like in this channel.
Yeah, so I mean, we took a leap of inspiration when deciding to use Xero, right? Because back then, no one knew what it was. I used to tell people it's spelled with an X,
people
not a Z.
Still don't.
They still don't know how to spell it. Some people. So we took a leap of faith in that, and then when we became like a player in that industry, because like, wow, you guys are the trusted experts, we figured out a way to monetize that. Because we had brand recognition, we had history, we had advantage because we've been using it for so long. So then it's like once you build something that's unique and it's different that people are gossiping about, then you kind of figure out the best way to keep on like pushing it, right? And
yeah,
like whenever you do something disruptive, as long as it's, again, it doesn't like blow it up, like there's always like a message in everything you can do. I'll give you a prime example. This is probably one of the best ones that like is very relatable that like everyone would think is interesting, I think. So when we had a physical office, this is a funny story. So when we had a physical office, every year we used to throw a Cinco de Mayo party because it was right after tax season and everyone wanted to kind of let loose and like have a good time. And we would actually go to Taco Bell and go get 360 tacos. We used to have to call ahead because Taco Bell thought it was a fraudulent order. So we had to like prepay, go talk to the manager, and then we'd buy 360 tacos. We would have people bring in like banjos. We would be wearing like sombreros. It was a full-on like fiesta on in our office building. There used to be like the accounting firms next to us used to be slamming on the windows, like in the doors, like, what are you doing in there? We're trying to friggin' work here. We're like, I don't know, I pay rent too, and my space happens to be the same size as yours, so I'm gonna just keep doing what the hell we want to do here. So that was like the first year where it was a disruption. Everyone was like, what the fuck is going on over there? But following that, the following year, we're like, we had so much fun. Let's invite the CPA partners. So we invited them. They're like, holy, you guys like you have a great time. Like, what do you guys do? Like, you work with small businesses. So it became a networking experience then. And then they started referring as customers. So that's a perfect example where you may be doing something that seems disruptive and like out of the world, but figure out a way to integrate people into it and then see how fast people want to be part of it. So
I love that. Yeah. You got to include people too, because sometimes people are their own worst enemy and they could get mad about something and then, here, you want a beer? Oh, sure, I guess. Like anybody's complaining about a party. Here, you want a beer? You want to come hang out? I guess I'll come for one. And then they end up having a great time, you know? That's the case too with a lot of this, like this whole cloud accounting space. Everybody is down to have a good time. And I think that's always been the difference between that and the way things traditionally used to be, is now people are welcoming the community and we're starting to see there's a bigger world out there. And I think that ground zero was definitely Xero, to start that whole cloud community in our world of accounting. It was dope. Is there any other like visions or goals that you have that you want to hit? Like, what does this look like? A software within the software and the hardware together? Is it always going to be one company? Are you going to separate it out at some point? Does that defeat the whole purpose of like the Apple-esque-ness of it?
So we've had so many potential investors say, hey, like, we just want to invest in the software. And once they say that, I'm like, you're just not the right person for us because you don't really understand the market. You don't understand the needs. You don't understand the connectivity with why these things have to coexist together at this present time. In the future, maybe there's an option where the software becomes its own entity or whatever, but that really wouldn't matter because our software is independent from our services. You can sign up for our app. There's a 14-day free trial. You don't need to speak with our team to get started, but a lot of clients want to bundle our software and services for the, complete experience. So
that's it. That's that full, complete experience. What do you think of everything being a subscription? I'm pretty sure you're doing that already. Do you offer one price for everything?
So our software is a set price, but then our services are value-based based on different tiers of level of engagement. And then if you want like bookkeeping and tax, that's a certain price. And, we don't force any of our clients to like, if you do bookkeeping, you have to do tax with us. It's a la carte. You kind of build your own package. And we have a 30-day cancellation notice just so we can help with transition. So there's no strings attached when working with us. And we do that purposely because if we don't think we're doing a good job, fire us. But we want to make it easy for people to engage with us and feel comfortable with us.
How is your turnover rate with clients and employees?
Turnover rate with clients has been really well because the clients that are not staying with us typically, unfortunately, some business models are just got destroyed by COVID and different things that have happened. Employees have been good. It always can be better. Employees are really challenging nowadays for the accounting industry, right? Labor shortages are really tough. These are things that I'm sure we're all experiencing in it. So we just try to be the best be the best we can and just treat our employees with respect and honesty and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got their issues. Do you have any problems that you want to talk about? Anything that's not going well that you need to talk about at the firm? Seems like everything's going well. I want to hear some bad stuff too.
I don't know. There's not really anything bad right now.
Here's one hard thing that you got coming up, Nick. You gotta get your new car on order because you're about to expire.
Yeah, so I have a car right now that I've had for 3 years and it has 15,000 miles on it because I don't drive anymore. So that's kind of annoying. I used to have an amazing 20-minute drive to the office, but I think I'm going to go electric.
Who needs to drive?
Yeah, right? Who needs to go drive? And the lease payments, like the lease rates on cars right now are outrageous. So I got to buy a car for the next car. So
doesn't really sound like a problem to me.
It's not really
lame.
I just love cars, and so I used to be a car salesman. I like cars, so I like to hear what.
I used to be a vacuum salesman. I used to sell everything.
I was a bagger and I pushed carts at ShopRite. That was like some of my first jobs, which I kind of missed. I love going to the grocery store and bagging my own groceries. It's like playing Tetris, like your own. It's really fun.
Trader Joe's got me doing that. They were the best at it, and that it was always exciting to see the way that they fit everything into one bag. They would double bag it, and you could basically carry everything out in just one bag. Like one extra thing, like the milk in your hand, and everything else in the bag. So, real life in Bookkeeper 360. The future is bright, and there are no problems when you create your own reality. The reality distortion field too. I think that you see everything not as a problem. You already said this earlier when I'm asking about problems, but you don't see it like that. You don't see mistakes as mistakes or problems as problems. They're all opportunities to solve something and look at it differently. And if you have that mindset about things, then everything becomes a puzzle and a challenge and exciting. Like, it doesn't sound like you have that much despair or hopelessness about the industry, the profession, or where things are headed or where they are. It sounds like it's not even optimism either. It's just, here's the reality. Let's bend it a little bit. Let's distort it a little bit.
It's all about balance. I mean, you can sit up all night and just worry about things. And I mean, what's that going to do for you? It's, I've always...
Is it about balance though?
It is. I think it is, because one of my fundamentals, and I explain this to new employees as well. It's like, you need to have, and we create this environment, and this has been on some of my town halls since like 2014. There's 3 aspects of relationship between an employee and a company. And it's one, you have to be, you have to love the people you work with and the people that you transact with. So our small business customers, you have to love them, want to help them, and you want to have fun with that. And the second column is around professional development. And I mentioned this before, like, you can't, if someone doesn't want to professionally develop and become smarter and get challenged and have healthy stress, they're kind of like a lost cause. They've plateaued. And the third thing is around, like, money makes the world go round. So if you can create that balance of that environment and someone that's like, wow, I look at Bookkeeper 360 as a platform. If I'm an accounting person, I can be a part of, help small business customers, kind of set my own pay based on my output and professionally grow because I'm going to get new challenging types of customers and technologies. Like, that's like the perfect atmosphere for someone to want to strive in. So when I talk about balance, it's like you need to have a good component of that. Even myself, like any of my friends and family would probably tell you, I'm the life of the party. Like, I'm not like, I love to go out, I love to socialize. And I try not to work more than a 50, 60-hour work week, even being a CEO of the company.
It reminds me of, Dave, again, another thing Dave Barrett said about everything should be its own pillar. I mean, they have their 3 models. You got 3 that you live by, and everything is holding up that stool, or that, you got the 3 points of the triangle. They're all evenly distributed, and they're all equally important too. And I think they have to all kind of mix together, is what he said. And I totally agree with this. Is it's not just, let's use the example of work-life balance. It's not separating them and them living separately. It's them living in harmony. And I don't even like these phrases, these kitschy, like work-life harmony and all that other. It's understanding the importance of all 3 of them and letting them all coexist in harmony. I'm going to say harmony again. You've got a book behind you, Never Split the Difference. And when I think of people saying balance, I think that's the antithesis of something like that. Like, first talk to me about that book. Like, why is that one important? Or tell me about a little bit about that.
Teaches you negotiations, probably one of the most fundamental aspects of getting people on board and speaking values to them, understanding what their needs are, and really developing a tailored plan for to have co-success, right? So I haven't read it in a while. I actually listened to the audiobook a while back, but Chris Voss and the Black Swan Group, I think they're phenomenal for what they've done.
Black Swan Group, yeah. I don't see much. I mean, I guess there is always an aspect of balance, but I also have been shying away from that word only because I haven't never liked it in my life. So to hear you say it is surprising, but I'm going to take it for what it is.
I think everyone has a different meaning of it. When I mean balance, I don't mean segment your schedule in 3 quadrants and just. I mean harmony is probably a better word, that they should all coexist and overlap and be accretive to each other. I think that's probably a better way to look at it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's always further defining the semantics of it. But Zachary, you got anything else to wrap us up or summarize?
Well, first of all, I thank you, Nick, for coming on, and thanks for being a part of this podcast. I know, this pod means a lot to Scott, and I've been grateful to be on it here and there throughout the journey, and it's been really
10 times
to visit with you. But congratulations on getting married. Nick got married, a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yep, a year ago, a little bit over a year
ago. So congratulations on that. You are continuing to flourish in your work and personal life, which I love to see, and I think that's admirable. I have a few takeaways from Nick that I wanted to share, if that's okay, Scott.
Absolutely.
First one is do your own thing your own way, and don't worry about other people. Focus on solving problems for people. Your first client you got because you solved the check printing problem. But throughout everything that you've talked about today, you've focused on solving problems for employees, solving problems for clients, solving problems for the small businesses. That's kind of central to what you believe. Xero, although a small player in the U.S. market, made a huge impact on the accounting industry and on you individually, how you work with your partners, how you view the industry and what you want to strive for in the future. You must live the problem to solve it effectively. Do every role in the business, and that will help you gain efficiencies and know what tools and software to use to solve problems inside your own business. Go beyond just a brand built around a partner. Help small businesses make good decisions and adapt and go.
I love your summaries. This is great.
What about go-karting, Zach? Anything about go-karting?
Listen, there was a couple times I almost brought up go-karting.
I knew it was going to come up. I didn't have to bring it up.
When are we having a rematch? I think I'll see you in January.
Yeah, January. We'll do it in January. We should do it in January.
So let me get this straight, though. Nick, you beat Zachary, right?
There's some debate whether it was.
I feel like you're beating a dead horse at this point, though.
It really wasn't a debate. I've been called a cheater in this various times, and I'm happy to have a rematch at your convenience, at your location of choice, Zach.
And what's the cheating? How does that get brought up here? How do you cheat in go-karting?
There was a white flag, yellow flag. I don't know what the flag was. I
don't know what the flag was. I thought you were about to curse on there.
He passed me while there was a flag. That's the point.
Not true. I don't think that's what happened. I think I threw you into a wall and you got upset with that.
So you're playing the blame game now, Zachary. Maybe this isn't beating a dead horse. Maybe there is still tension here.
I will say this. I will say this. Nick has the trophy. He sat on the number one.
Do you have the trophy still?
I just moved, so I'm looking for it. It's in some boxes in my basement right now. I will hopefully find it soon.
And I was second
next time.
And I am heard about it, and I plan on retaking that trophy.
Okay. So that's we're going to bury this after the next rematch, whenever that might be. Is that going to be at this Gusto thing?
And yeah.
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah. We're going to try to sneak away.
All right. If it's not go-karting, it'll be something else, some kind of competition. I want to see this.
Ice cream eating. I know Zach loves ice cream, so
I love ice cream
eating contest.
I don't know. How do you make that competitive?
I'm lactose intolerant, so that's going to probably be a lose-lose for me. Even if I win, I'm losing. So
Nick gave a great recommendation for ice cream though when I was in New York, and we went there. So
dope.
Yeah,
dope. All right. Well, I appreciate both of y'all. Thanks for spending the time at Accounting High. But we'll all hang out together soon.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll see you in January, hopefully.
Looking forward to it. Yeah. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Zach.
Thanks, Nick. See you.
Peace out.
Bye, guys.
It's just the audio.
Special guest.
Zachary Call.
So we're all sons of CPAs?
Maybe that should be the podcast name.
Oh, that's actually, this is why we need you.
That's really good.
So without further ado, introducing the star of our show.
Straight out of the Mormon Church, Salt Lake City, we have Zachary Call. Let's frame it. This is I worked it up to be bigger than it was. Let's calm down here.
I'm glad that you have an opinion on this, for sure. For me, it's about the community and the partnership that I have. So it's even bigger than these little nuances.
With Laurelyn Wilson.
We are lucky to have Kristen Keats, also CPA.
Dave Olson.
Well, today we are blessed to have Scott Scharf.
Very special guest, John Garrett. Another son of a CPA.
Yep.
Michael Eckstein Jr.
Not Junior. My dad's name is Ben. Today we have Chad Davis. We have Red Kite here.
We are blessed.
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah.
I've been watching High School Musical with my daughter.
Yeah.
All weekend.
That's my takeaway.
That is some hot girl energy, is what that is.
That
all right,
is hot girl energy.
You have
I
a
need
hot
that.
summer coming up, and I love that. It's like
Awesome.
it's an energy, it's an aura. Don't put this in it, but it's like big dick energy. Anyone can have big dick energy.
Don't put this
Same
in it.
idea.
I'm going to have to put it in now. That's what we'll end at.
Do it. I think you should. It'll get more clicks.
Kelsey Keats, can we interview you instead of your mom?
Yes, I'm more exciting than her.
You know, my daughter is going to be in high school. Do you have any tips for her?
Keep up on your stuff.
Okay, I'm going to say something that's going to embarrass you and her, that you have a really hot mom.
Let's just edit that out, Scott.
Zachary, did you want to ask anything else?
No, just I'll mention I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed by what you said, Scott. Not I personally was embarrassed.
Oh. Okay, sorry.
No, this was fun.
Family guy. So my family, of course, brings me.
I think you're more Dilbert than Family Guy, but we can go with Family Guy. Yeah. I'm referencing cartoons. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I don't watch cartoons, but it's all right.
No, so the family though.
Well, I'm confused, Scott.
So let's talk about the Book of Mormon. You both are part of the Mormon Church, right?
Is that the Broadway play? Is that what you're referring to? I haven't seen it myself, so I
haven't seen it.
Don't have much to contribute.
I have not seen it either. Zachary, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. But if you want to find out more, you can go to churchofjesuschrist.org and you can find out. Scott, we'll always look up to you. There's riches in the niches. Say no so that you can say yes. Fire more quickly and get your business healthier. Take time off to see what's wrong with your business. Getting processes right will lead to real long-term success. Accounting is a dirty job, but not really sexy.
Zachary speaks as well.
I think you're referring to my church service, which I am super active in my church, and
that's awesome.
To speak and to do different things like that.
I've defined my and as doing this podcast. I could do this for a while.
At least for the moment. Scott's always got something cooking. What's
Are you in Breaking Bad? Are you a meth dealer now?
I used to be. It wasn't meth. I used to sell coke. That actually is true. Right. Yeah, it actually is true.
Are you going to need to cut that out?
I don't know. I don't really care. I wasn't Walter White, but I did have
mine was
kind of
that was a
persona.
comedian. Yeah. That was the comedian coming out of
right.
People love honesty in their lives.
Yes.
They don't care if you're this side or that side, or you stand for something or not stand for something. They care that you're honest with yourself and with them. Allow the honesty of the individuals within an organization to be a part of that organization, to become part of it, and have it be part of that organization's story.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. You should have been the guest, Zachary. Why am I on here?
He is.
You should have just
always
talked to
the
him.
guest. So, Zachary, I don't know if you've heard this recently, but they've been calling me a toddler because I have a fascination with numbers, letters, and colors. I don't need anything much deeper because my kids are young, so I don't need to impress them. I don't have to do much to impress them.
Scott, who's they? Who's this group of collective people that are calling you toddler?
Just Nicole. Nicole. Zachary's a pastor.
It's different in my church because we're volunteers. So it's not like I'm a pastor and I get paid for it, or
You do it for self-actualization. You do it for fulfillment. And
Yeah. How did you get this title of cutest accountant?
So when I first started doing the whole LinkedIn thing,
you guys are so chill. Well, I got to ask you a question. For those of you that may not know your and Zach's relationship, how would you categorize that?
We're pals. So we actually met each other through Xero. So Xero is the connector. Xero is the at ground zero is where it all started.
My mom was a pharmacist, so she sold drugs on a corner of my hometown of Malley Terrace, Washington, legally, but she was selling drugs on the corner.
And we've talked about this in the past. I've sold drugs as well, so I have more relation to your mom than your father. Yeah,
we're coming out. We're not smoking weed. I was ready to give a message of peace and hope from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's gonna be beautiful.
He did it before I did. See, Zachary called me out. He said every episode I always mention Mormon somehow in some way. We have a really good bit here that me and Zachary are working on, because he was serving at the same time I was serving, but I was serving for the devil. He was serving for the higher power.
The Church of Jesus Christ. For the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Yeah. At some point, we're going to get to a message of hope and peace during this episode. You can't get a culture that doesn't have accounting. You can't get a culture that doesn't do math. Can't get a culture that doesn't laugh. Except Russia.
You have to command their attention. You can't bore them to explain to you, but I think
this is why Scott has a podcast. Still for attention. We need to resolve these issues, Scott.
Can we resolve this by the end of this episode? Because I've yet to resolve it. Yeah.
I say you're taking lemons and making lemonade, and this podcast is your tasty lemonade. So keep it up, man.
I don't drink sugars anymore, so I'm going to go with lime flavored sparkling water. Yeah.
Let's give you lemons and you made Crystal Light.
At the end of the day, I think Scott's assessment is correct. One's blue and one's green. You can succeed with either. Which color do you like? Okay.
Welcome to our show. If you made it through that 7 minutes. I don't even know if I should play the intro anymore. I mean, that's going to be our new intro now. I'm just going to run that for 7 minutes every episode. Let everybody hear the...
People would for sure tune out.
It's quite the intro.
The journey of Zachary Call. So I did this because I got a text a couple weeks ago from Zach, and he's like, when am I going to be on the pod again? So instead of just having him on, I decided to do an entire production around his 10th episode and make it all about him, since I don't think he wants that, but he does want to be on the show. Zach's famous now too.
Yeah, I definitely didn't want that, but it was kind of funny. I had forgotten about some of those moments, so that was exciting. And Scott asked me who I wanted to go on with, and I said, "Let's get Nick on." And Scott was like, "Well, I've been talking to him. I've been trying to get him on." I said, well, perfect. Let's do it.